town DCBs
I tend to agree, as far as,
Most of them don't get fined.
a lot of them.
Once again,
That's what happened. That was the most accurate.
First, I'd like to just mention that Councilman Gallagher is excused tonight. This is a letter from some residents in Naples Park. Got 11 signatures from neighbors about an abandoned house. I'm just going to pass the pictures to you guys because I didn't have all of them printed up. Dear Supervisor Walsh and Town Board members, please review the enclosed signed request for town action. Neighbors I found at home had no hesitation in signing on and are upset that the house at 17 Center Road continues to be an eyesore and health risk for over a year. Clearly, they want this to be addressed by the town ASAP. I learned that parents and children waiting for the school bus in morning see rats on this property. A neighbor has their house for sale, but this situation must be a hindrance. I could easily get more signatures in the neighborhood, but it would not be necessary to convince town officials to act. If the state law, once adopted by Rosendale, allows for the town to act, and the town could realize 50% above the cost to fix or remove this unsightly and public health risk, neighbors cannot understand why the town would not want to profit from taking actions necessary. The neighborhood taxpayers are anxious to hear what the town government is going to do and when they are going to do it. Please let us know. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, Checo Miller, 13 Middle Road, High Falls, New York, 12440. As I said, there's 11 signatures. And then on, this also says, request for town of Rosendale to address the dangerous structure at 17 Center Road. We, the property owners in High Falls Park, request that the town of Rosendale move forward with actions to address the dangerously deteriorating abandoned property at 17 Center Road. We understand the structure is infested with mold and is probably not salvageable. This unhealthy and unsightly situation has existed for over a year. We are aware the town needs to adopt as local law the New York State law that allows towns to address such abandoned and/or foreclosed structures in disrepair and require the bank owning the property to reimburse towns at a rate of 150% of that cost. Homeowners in the area should be informed as to what the town is doing to rectify the situation and when we can expect a resolution of this matter. We, the undersigned, respectfully request your response and solution regarding this blight on our community. I will be taking action. Probably it won't, be addressed until next year, obviously, because we're at the end of the year now. But I have been in conferences with our town attorney to come up with a law that will help us to deal with abandoned and foreclosed properties. There's several properties in the town that have been an issue. And due to our code enforcement officer being out a few times, it's put a delay on that. But, this is something that we want to work closely with our code enforcement and building department. And we have to make sure, we won't just adopt the state law, we'll have to add some things to it, and that's one of the reasons we haven't taken action, because we want to make sure that the law puts us in a position of not costing the taxpayers any money, and how do we go about taking the action and making sure that the banks or whoever owns the property can reimburse the town. And because we already know that as of now, when the building department calls and says, this, or the neighbors call and say this property has been abandoned, there's, animals are living in here, or there's mold, the banks don't respond. So we want to find a way to make sure that, it's a little bit, it's structured in a way that it protects us. So I think that, can't disagree, this is absolutely something that we need to address.
One of the big problems here, it looks like it almost should be leveled, but the big problem is going to be, well, the big problem is the whole house has got asbestos siding. So it's going to be a very costly and environmental issue to deal with that. If it should go that route, that's all asbestos siding on the garage, this side. So it's a shame that people walk away from things like
I'm familiar
that.
with this house. The residents did walk away from it about a year ago. Subsequent to that, they went back in and removed some articles and proceeded to take what they thought was refuse and leave it on the lawn. And it stayed there for quite a while. I know our code enforcement officer was involved. And at that point, we found out that it is bank-owned, and the bank doesn't really have a lot of motivation to do anything with it, to move on it, for whatever reason, I don't know. So to Gene's point, this local law that we need to adopt is prudent, because we don't have the teeth or laws right now to address issues like this. I can think back a few years ago when I was deputy fire marshal, there was a building burned out in High Falls also, and it sat for a while, and there was a varmint issue in it, and it was in a residential area, and we tried for months to try to get the bank to address it, and finally we were pushed off to the insurance company, and I went back and forth with a very, very nice lady in Chicago, Illinois, that ultimately we came to an agreement that rather than the town attaching the cost of closing that building up to the tax bill and subsequently possibly messing up the potential sale, they did agree to make dollars available. Actually, the town did it and was reimbursed. But that was through an agreement, so we don't have a law in place. So to Gene, your point, we do definitely need to get something on board. And then just going back to this piece of property, the way the property was cleaned up on the outside anyway was, quite frankly, the neighbors went little by little and took it and brought it to their own trash and tried to tidy up just around it. But it sits there, and everything that is in this letter to this town board is true. I've seen the inside of the house. It's a knockdown. It's quite honestly, it's a knockdown. So I think we should.
Yeah, and just to make the point that it's definitely something that we've been discussing. I've asked the town attorney to start drafting something, and it was something we talked about over the summer, and due to Dave being out a few times for illness,
Yes.
it got pushed back a little bit. So, but I did remind her again that we need to take action on this, and she said she's working on it.
Is this something that the town has to deal with, or if we step it up to the county? Could the county oversee the
It's a local
situation?
law issue, and there's a state law, and that's what they're talking about, but we want to address it as a local law. So it's not just, we don't want to just adopt the state law, we want to have to make that going into law. So that's one of the things we're working on, and I feel bad for these people. I know I've taken over a few abandoned properties myself, and I know that it's one of those situations. We were lucky in all three of the situations. I was able to get agreements for people, but the town could not take any action on those properties, and that was before I was in office. So it's very difficult. So we want to make sure that we can address this, and I'll respond to these neighbors and let them know that we're interested in helping them. We have two community events I'd like to point out. One is the 7th annual Rosendale, which is this Saturday, December 15th, from 11 to 6, along Main Street. There will be different events and businesses that are going to be participating. Town hall will be open, serving hot chocolate. There's hay rides and Santa. And, bring the kids. The other thing I wanted to mention is the Friday, December 28th, is the Rosendale Blood Drive, from 2 to 8 at the Rec Center. And
Mrs. Ryan brought it to my attention, and that we didn't include the chef's dinner on Christmas Day.
oh, right. You're right. Chef's dinner is, do you remember the? December 25th.
25th, and it usually runs from 12 to 3.
Okay. And I'll make sure that gets on the website, and anybody wants to look for the details on that. To make a motion to approve prior minutes.
I'll second.
Rhodes? Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Committee reports, Susan?
Sure, I'll start it off. With regard to the Rec Commission, all is quiet. Just want to remind everybody that there is a raffle that's going to be held on December 15th, next Wednesday, I believe it is. Is it Wednesday? The 15th, anyway.
15th is Saturday.
It is Saturday. For 150 gallons of fuel oil donated by Heritage Energy. Tickets are $5 a piece or 6 for $20. It's approximately a $600 plus value. So it's another fundraiser for the pool. So if anybody's interested, you can see Gene, myself, stop at Town Hall or
Yes.
Crossroads or
Crossroads has it too.
Crossroads, or call me and I'll get them to you. But it's a great opportunity to raise funds, and 150 gallons of fuel oil in this economy is a nice little shot in the arm. With regard to the ZBA, last month's activity was rather quiet. However, the ZBA they are meeting and discussing ways to collaborate with the planning board moving forward for any future cell towers, and I believe that they're going to be, we have that on the agenda this evening. And then finally, as I report every month on the food pantry, the local food pantry, I'm happy to announce that we are going to join the Hudson Valley Food Bank, their local food pantry, and that'll enable us to purchase food at a much lower cost, and hopefully, keep the food stream going. We're doing well now, but always can use donations of money and food and time and energy, and I'll keep repeating it, because the one thing that I don't agree with is that in this world, people should not go hungry. So we work hard to make sure that doesn't happen in our little town, and any help that we can get is appreciated. That's it.
Thank you.
Water and sewer, nothing exciting going on. Everything's pretty much the same there, unless you have something else.
Just that all 3 lift stations are completed now?
Okay. That I didn't know. That doesn't-
Just happened since, it's not happened after your meeting.
So that's that with that. As far as the youth committee, the St. Pauli shed out front, year to date, we've made $836.87, so we're moving along. Once again, please donate your clothes and stuff to that shed, because that money goes right back into the town, so it's just your money working for you, so I would very much appreciate it. We had at the Texas Roadhouse, we had a fundraiser when they gave a percentage back. We didn't do too well. We got $17.03. It was kind of the middle of the week. It didn't go over that well. Then we had one at Moe's, a fundraiser, and that gave us $115, so that was a little bit better. Rosendale, which the supervisor already mentioned. We've only had one movie trip to the New Paul Cinema. Every week we offer it, but people are not interested in paying and seem to just want to hang out the center, so we'll be trying it a few more weeks on Saturdays, and then we'll see how that goes. There is a new snack machine in the youth center. And I think that pretty much covers it.
Okay.
It does.
And the Environmental Commission is working on the, BHB, to work together with NYSERDA to look at the building. We talked about this last week, that we signed a contract with them to look at how to make this building work more efficiently, to examine the geothermal and the solar panels, make sure everything is, and also Environmental Commission had a guest speaker last month, Tim Rhodes from Ulster County Rural Recovery came to explain how, give the Environmental Commission a little bit of oversight on how they do their business, and a little bit about flow control, and I think that was very informative. And other than that, they're just reviewing some of the things before the planning board. And move on to the financial report. fund, $488,852.32. Highway, $325,325.76. Capital Highway, $21,286.34. Capital, $145,921.96. Rec sub, $24,096.43. Capital Rec, $790.88. And White, $1,921.15. In your packet, there's a letter from Gary Rhodes. I'd like to make a motion to accept resignation of Gary Rhodes from the police department.
I'll second with regret. Officer Rhodes was a good officer. Wish him luck.
Free.
I'm trying to get it to shut off.
Roll vote. Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. In your packet, I only have two of these. Make sure I understand what happened here. Did you have two of these in there? Somebody missing one of these motions? Okay. Do you have a motion here for this?
You need one? Take it apart.
The county legislator is requested to be lead agency for the Resolution 260, amending the capital project number 286, planning and design for water acquisition and distribution at Ulster County Community College campus renovations and reconstruction Phase 1 facilities master plan, amending the 2009-2014 capital program, amending the 2009 capital project fund, Ulster County Community College.
I'll second.
So, well, let me just read the motion first, if you want. Motion to consent to the Ulster County Legislature as lead agency for the planning and design for the water acquisition and distribution, Ulster County Community College campus renovations and reconstruction Phase 1 facilities master plan, amending the 2009-2014 capital programs, amending the 2009 capital project fund, Ulster County Community College.
And why are we involved in that?
Because the town board of Rosendale and the town board of Marltown jointly oversee the High Falls Water District.
Oh, okay.
And so we're an interested agency.
Yeah. Because I don't think any part of Ulster County Community College resides in Rosendale.
No, but we,
The,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's just the water.
yeah, they're going to, the proposal about, it's happening right now. It's going to run up 213 across the 213 bridge. Actually, it's going to go underneath the creek at the bridge. They're boring right now. They're going to bore on both sides, tunnel underneath the creek, bring it back up, go up Lucas Avenue north to Leggett Road, bring it west onto Leggett to the rail trail, and bring it into the college just beyond that.
It's a hell of a distance.
It's a big distance. It's a big distance, and it's going to include a lift station and all the necessary infrastructure that they'll need. The college will still have their backup water system with their well system, but this is, this project moving forward enables the college to have a required backup water system, which they don't have right now. And if you see through the cards, it probably makes it a little bit easier to put dorms on campus. So obviously that's not part of this, but anybody who knows anything could see that that's probably where they're going.
And the High Falls Water District has enough volume to supply the college?
Yeah, the High Falls Water District has a capacity of approximately 340,000 gallons a day and uses about 80,000 gallons a day.
Cool.
So there's plenty of volume there. And the college will be charged a rate that reflects the usage of the facility and the transmission lines and all that. And the college will also, should there be any issue with regard to a deficiency of water coming into the High Falls water system itself for the residents, the college will be taken offline and use their backup system, their well system. So, and it's also an opportunity for the High Falls Water District to generate a little revenue and possibly bring the rates down, because they were levied, going back a few years ago, they were all levied $800 to create a capital account, for O&M moving forward, because when the Army Corps gave us the keys to the facility, that was it, here you go, and the rest is on you. So there was no capital account to consider, future issues that may come up with regard to expenses. So we've gotten that together, and this may be an opportunity to further either drive down some rates or build up that capital account.
One of the things we found with our water company is that if we pass your property with our mains, we're required to give you the option to tap into our mains. The length of pipe that you're laying, you're passing probably 75 or 80 properties. Are you going to be required to allow every property you pass to tap into the High Falls Water District?
Right now, the line is designed to go to the college. If there, at some point down the line, the residents along that line may petition, and where that's going to go, Tim, I don't know.
Okay.
That's not being addressed.
It's not an issue right now, but, it's been spoken of, the possibility that people along that line. However, it's going to be a very limited area, because there won't be any, tributary lines brought off of that. It's a supply line specifically for the college, but, the thought was that a homeowner, an adjacent homeowner could make the case that, they should have a...
Yeah, because we were forced to.
Yeah. There's some legalese in there, and I don't really know the particulars of it, but,
Interesting.
yeah.
Bill?
Where does Terry Johnson's responsibilities end? At the water fountains at Olson?
No, he will actually be responsible for the line and the lifts and all that as part of the water district. That'll be part of the build act. But once, I have to clarify with Terry, but I think once it gets to
To the college.
college property,
It's like any other property.
just like curbside, once it gets curbside to the Petcock, it's yours from there. Yeah.
Do you want to vote on this now? Or do you want to leave this?
I have one question. Why is it the legislature and not the county of Ulster?
They're the ones that, any agency that's involved can request to be the lead agency, and they're the ones that asked.
I just think it's going to be hard to, it could be hard for the legislature to come to consensus.
I'm going to guess that it's more of a formality than anything else, as opposed to making the college, the college board, the college foundation, the lead agency. It's really kind of out of their realm, and the legislature is the financial arm, so I would assume it's that way. But to your point, yeah, I know, we all agree. But I think this is something that's pretty much determined that it needs to be.
And it's going to be green renovation, right?
It's not the renovation, it's just the water. We're just talking about the
Oh,
water.
just the water. And is this is just so the college can
Tap
expand?
into the High Falls Water District. They have, Ken brought up that there's maybe future, expansion is what they're looking at, but right now, I think they don't have adequate water already, so I think that's been an issue for them.
It's almost the cart before the horse. You can't look at expansion unless you have the adequate water flow, and they're not in compliance right now with regard to having a backup system as it is.
Yeah.
So they need to, this is going to serve a dual purpose, I think, to give them the backup system and the capacity to expand. But that's just my
I know that
conjecture.
there were concerns the last time this was discussed, particularly the people on that end of Cottick Hill Road, in terms of traffic, because they see this as preliminary to drawings and so on. But given that I haven't had a chance to look it over, I think it's just better to abstain.
Okay.
But the primary focus right now is just to enable the college to have that backup water system, water capacity. What comes beyond that,
We're not approving anything that has to has to do with whether the project goes forward. This is just to say that
For
there'll be
there'll
lead
be
agency.
the lead agency.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's SEQRA, part of SEQRA is that because we're an interested agency, we have to, make an opinion on that.
Okay. And we certainly don't want.
I would say I'm not interested in the lead agency. The rest of the board feels.
Okay, the roll vote, Councilman Hassett.
Yes.
Councilman Ryan.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the board to support me in writing a letter for a grant application for the Women's Studio Workshop titled Our Town National Endowment of the Arts. This is to do artwork along the rail trail and maybe on some of the town properties if possible, but it would be any project that they are proposing would come before the town to, for approval. Copy the letters there.
You want that form of motion?
Just gonna do it.
I'll make a motion to authorize the supervisor to forward this to the National Endowment for the Arts on behalf of the Women's Studio Workshop.
I'll second.
You know what?
Excuse me, roll vote, Councilman Hassett.
Yes.
Councilman Ryan.
Yes.
Councilman Green.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes.
Excuse me, who seconded that?
Yeah.
No, I was up to the other thing.
Councilwoman Green seconded it.
Not sure which one. Okay, the zoning board of appeals has submitted two proposals. One is, if anybody's had a chance to review this, this is to suggest some changes in how Cellco, Verizon, any cell tower issues can be worked concurrently between the planning board and the ZBA. And I don't know if Chris is here, if anybody has any questions.
Are these comments available on the website so we can look at
Not
them?
yet, but, we're just,
Okay.
I'm actually going to make a motion to refer it to the planning board, so.
Okay, thank you.
It's a pretty good job, all that discussion that evening, got down to this, not bad, not bad.
So I'd like to make a motion to refer this to the planning board for comments. Since this was drafted by the zoning board, it would make sense to let the planning board comment on it.
I'll second.
I think it'll probably, once we get, I think if we get comments back from the planning board, if they have anything that they would like to address on this, I think then it would be, prudent to then send it to Mary Lou and look at whether this is something we want to take on.
Roll vote, Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Hassett.
Yes.
Councilman Ryan.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes, who seconded that?
I did.
And then the Environmental Commission a few months ago had submitted a revised backyard chicken code, or changes to what we have now as chicken code. zoning board of appeals has been inundated with chicken issues and the code enforcement officer. So chickens have been on everybody's mind. So this is the comments that the zoning board of appeals has made in reference to the chicken code draft that the environmental commission submitted to the town board. As I said before, Chris is here if anybody has any questions about it.
Chris, you're dying to talk about chickens, aren't you?
Yeah. Haven't had enough of that yet.
Just to let everybody know, it sounds kind of, something you want to chuckle about, but the zoning board of appeals deal with it every month, every other month. And if there's not someone before them, then they're considering the previous applicant and ways to make it more streamlined for going forward, so.
The existing code is very vague. It really focuses more on how you house the chickens and not so much on where and how many and where is an appropriate place to have chickens, except for the actual zone that is allowing. So I think that the zoning board is looking for some more guidelines on how to determine, well, first it would be the code enforcement and building department to have some guidelines, and then the zoning board would, by having, those guidelines would help them to make decisions about variances, and maybe not have so many variances have to go before them if we can.
The other really substantial change would be anything that moves it from a use variance to an area variance. If we are going to allow chickens, we want to encourage that it's an area variance procedure.
Right, well, actually, I think it was determined that it really should be an area variance now, right, the way the code's written.
That's what we determined.
Yes.
I just read in the paper, was it Marbletown? Had the
I think-
first issue with the chickens.
I know several towns are having issues with it. I mean,
I think we can spend a million years on this to look at godzillion scenarios, and we're not going to get them all. And we're going to pass a law, and we're going to have that one situation that is going to be Murphy's Law. We've had businesses here that have fell through the cracks, without mentioning names, that we could do nothing about. Because Mr. Morrison can elaborate on that. So as far as the chicken law, I don't know why we can't put it to a case-by-case basis so that we can really look at the situation, consider the neighbors' concerns, feelings, the amount of chickens that would be appropriate, because I think this could just go on forever without being able to move on. And that's my own personal feeling on it.
I think that the code enforcement officer and the building department has asked for some guidance on this, so it makes sense to get all the opinions of the boards and commissions and go forward with what our legal, our attorney, thinks is appropriate, what changes might work. And I agree that it's still very important to use the zoning board as the venue for when you have a situation where it doesn't, there's always going to be something, like you said, that doesn't fit the code. And somebody's going to ask for a variance, and then it's still going to have to go to the zoning board. Chair?
Does it specify the number you can have?
No, right now it doesn't. Right, and this new, I don't remember
Did the
what.
zoning board review the number of chickens you can have on the size of property that you own?
Yes, it's in this proposal.
It's in this proposal, but
Or
it
in the
isn't,
code, though.
it's not in the code now.
And what is it saying in this
In this
piece of
proposal.
paper that you have?
This one says, if you have a 1/6 of an acre lot, you can have 4 chickens. If you're an R3, if you have an R2, and you have 12,500 square feet, which is about 1/4 of an acre, you can have 5 to 8 chickens. And if you are in R1, and it's a 1/2 an acre, you can have 5 to 8 chickens. This is very specific, so R1, R2, R2A with 0.75 acres, 8 to 10 chickens. R1, R2, R2A with 1 acre, 12 chickens. R zone with 1.5 to 2 acres, 16 chickens. Any RA zone with 2 acres or more, 20 chickens. No offense, but I already see some issues that I already know could be an issue with that. One is that it's my understanding you have to buy 6 chickens when you purchase chickens. So having 4 chickens is almost impossible. I think there's probably going to, be other things that, one board or one commission might identify, and we have to figure some of these things out. Yes, Chris?
I'm happy to try to clarify that. The intent of the zoning board in that case was to try to not go to 6 chickens in any instance, except for the larger parcels, as a way of encouraging anybody that's looking into backyard chickens is going to have a network. They can't just buy 6 chickens on a whim and set up shop. The specific numbers, that was what the board agreed to. I'm not sure that we're strong on the numbers, but just the idea of making it, trying to create a situation that's going to encourage a network, so we're not looking at chicken.
Already I see also is once you get into an A zone with 2 acres or more, and you start having 20 chickens, have you got a farm now, instead of just backyard chickens. So where do you draw the line from people that want to have a couple of chickens for eggs in their backyard to what constitutes, raising chickens for commercial use? Where do you draw that line? So I think that some of that stuff will be reviewed, and I appreciate all the hard work you guys have done on this, but I think that we're going to be pulling from different, I think that Environmental Commission worked hard on it, you guys worked hard on it. We're going to get some opinion from the planning board, and the next step would be to put it before our lawyer to see what they have to say. Yes?
Just one clarification. My name is Kelly. I'm also on the ZBA. We think it's important, and we tried to make it clear in that proposal, that there's a very specific delineation in the town code, the difference between agricultural chickens or commercial chickens and backyard chickens. That those are 2 separate things. And if you live in an A zone, you could choose, obviously, to have a commercial farm with as many chickens as you want, but you could also choose to have backyard chickens, and those would be governed by the backyard chicken rules.
I understand what you were that was your proposal. I'm not sure I agree with that. So that's all I was saying. When you, at a certain point, I think most people are going to say they're raising chickens. They're not having chickens for 4-H use or something. So that's where I think that we have to be very careful on, when does it become agricultural, and when is it just, I have a few chickens in my backyard because my son wants to have chickens for 4-H. That's the kind of thing that we have to be careful that it doesn't turn. We don't want an abuse of the code, because if you allow that, it's, you're going to, you see what I'm saying? It could become an abuse of the code if you have a different use. So I think that, you can clarify, where is it appropriate to have backyard chickens. And once you get to a certain number of chickens and a certain amount of space, I don't think you're talking about backyard chickens anymore. That's just my personal opinion on it. But, this is stuff that we'll work through. I don't know if anybody else has anything.
What is the process of working through it? What's the next?
I think the planning board has to give us some comments on it. I think that, has it already been referred to you? Yes, it has.
I believe so, but I've been involved with this for at least 2 years.
Yeah.
And it gets blurred between my personal intercession, hope you have this long, and planning board. But I believe that we did it, because I think we sent them up to Dave, and Dave
Okay,
sent
so
them.
I have to check my records, because they may have already done theirs, and it might have come to me in the form of Dave's comments. Do you guys remember?
Well, we did review it, but we ought to understand the ZBA's.
Yes, this is still, yeah.
I think the planning board should see the final
ZBA's
version
comments.
before it goes to the lawyers.
Well, wait a minute now, let me make sure you understand something. This is their recommendation based on what the Environmental Commission drafted.
Correct.
The planning board is giving us opinion on what the Environmental Commission drafted, okay?
Comments from the same document.
Right, now,
Correct.
right, you guys are more than welcome, which I can make a motion to refer this to you, so you can make comments on what the ZBA, but we're not talking about, you have something in this that you want to make a comment on, that's perfectly acceptable, but the draft code that was given to you was the original document that you would make comments on. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion for this to be sent to the planning board for review.
understand the planning board will be working with the existing law, their own recommendations, and these recommendations, and giving us comment.
It's only smart to get as much input as possible before we make decisions, and then at some point you have to have a public hearing, and the more you work through some of these issues ahead of time, you might not have as much of a, situation where you didn't address everything that might have been, yes, Jen?
I already mentioned to Jean, but it's my hope that, I know these processes take a long time, but April is when people get their chickens. That's when, so if we can have that as like a goal to work toward.
It's not going to happen, Jen. I already said, there's no way we're going to get it done in 3 months. There's no way.
No, because we've got to go to a public hearing too.
It's not, so
To
that's,
change the code, we're going to have to go to a public hearing, and I anticipate that there'll be the chicken people on one side, the anti-chicken people on the other side.
so
all flock here.
by the time the planning board and everybody's gotten our comments back, and we have set up a public hearing, we'd have to, make a motion for a public hearing in January or something like that. Then you're talking about February maybe to have a public hearing. And this is just a scenario if everything goes according to plan. And then you're talking about, making decisions and working out any of the issues that come out, maybe redrafting it. I don't see it happening by April.
Well, the planning board is meeting tomorrow night, so if they could get us an answer back, it seems like with Easter around the corner, we ought to...
You mean Christmas? Oh, Easter for the spring?
Easter for chickens.
Well,
we ought to try to expedite it if people are willing to do that, because that's, I think that was Jen's point, is that, people want to know whether they get their kids chickens for
but
Easter.
even if they did that, they would
Well,
not be
you know
able to
what?
do the process in that
Yeah.
much time. It's not going to.
I'd rather take our time and have a law that
Yeah.
is a good law that upholds to any scrutiny or question than to fast track something so that we can be there for April so people can get chickens.
Well, I do want to fast track it.
I know you want to fast track it.
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I just don't want to drag our feet.
I don't want to drag our feet, but I don't want to make unrealistic promises, and that's.
We just do our best.
I said that to Jen before the meeting. There's, it's unrealistic to expect that we're going to have it done by spring. By
And I
April.
anticipate when we get a product to put before the public, that we're going to have a lot of people chiming in with comments. And it's not going to be a walk in the park to get it there in April, because I've personally heard of people in congested areas that are saying, you better not pass that chicken law, because I don't want chickens next to me. And on the converse side, I've heard people say, listen, I want to have a couple chickens in my backyard. And so,
It's a balancing act.
It is, and it's, I hope it works out in an expeditious manner.
If we were able to work out the outdoor wind boiler, I think we could work out the chickens. And we did, and
Put them two together, you have a
because
heck of a
it's a similar thing where some people want the right to do it and others don't want to be affected by it. So,
Yeah. And both sides have valid points.
Okay.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green?
yes.
Councilman Hansel?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. There you go, Bill.
As long as they're ready by barbecue season.
Okay. Last week, we briefly looked at a draft of the parking proposal for, that the Economic Development Commission and along with Tim Morrison worked on. It's quite lengthy, so I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review it. And Tim, did you want to talk about it?
Well, yeah, I'll take any questions and just, there's actually, you have two documents here. One is an overview that explains a lot of the analysis that we did to arrive at the proposed code that you also have a copy of. The, there are two pieces of the code. One is general parking within the town boundaries. The second part of it is parking on the Main Street Business District. And that part of it, as we're all familiar with, there was an attempt about 10 years ago to solve some of the parking issues we have on Main Street by establishing a process to provide waivers to businesses that didn't have adequate parking when they came to the planning board, because many businesses wouldn't be able to open their doors because they didn't have available parking for their customers or clients. And so there was a process proposed about 10 years ago now for the planning board to assign waivers. The waivers were to give those businesses permission to use the municipal lot, and they would pay a fee for those waivers. That process had some issues. The largest issue was there was never a process put in place to collect the fees. And so while the planning board approved businesses and assigned waivers for parking, there was never a process in place for the town to collect those fees.
I just want to clarify that was for residents and businesses. It's not just for businesses.
It's for residences, but the residents are really for the apartments.
Right, any property that did not have sufficient parking.
Correct. But only on the Main Street Business District. And so the proposal here addresses parking in town, general parking, as well as the Main Street parking, and the waiver process. And there are many communities, actually, that are struggling with these same issues. In urban, central areas of communities, businesses are springing up, but there is no available parking. And so there are municipalities all over the country who are dealing with this. And they're using fees in lieu of parking, which are essentially like our waivers. And so what we did is we looked at many of those different communities, and I have a list of a couple of them here. And we've used that as a basis for this proposal. And I think if you accept the premise of this is the right way to go, there are a couple more things that have to be done before it gets implemented. The first is to determine what the fee would be. What's the cost of providing municipal parking on Main Street? And also to understand what is the cost to other local businesses that do provide parking. What does it cost them? And I've talked to a couple of them. For instance, the Postage Inn, the parking lot that Jim Jerkowski has next to his restaurant. Between his maintenance, his lighting, and his taxes, cost him about $6,000 a year. I spoke to the Red Brick, and the Red Brick's parking, it costs him $2,000 a year just for snowplow. And at the time, Bill couldn't tell me what his taxes are because it's one tax bill. But he did say that he had an estimate for $20,000 to have it resurfaced. And so I think that's an indicator of what it costs other businesses in town to provide parking. And then the other aspect of it is, what does it cost the town to provide the municipal parking? I think right now we have a rental agreement with Jopenberg Mountain, and I honestly don't know, with the transition of Jopenberg, I don't know if anybody knows what's going to go on with that.
That's correct.
But we also have maintenance costs. It's plowed by the highway department. It's maintained by the highway department. I've asked Carl to give me an estimate of what that is, and he hasn't done that yet. We have lighting costs. We have insurance costs. And we ought to understand what the cost is to the town, as well as I think there has to be a reserve fund to say at some point we're going to want to improve that. And so you want to factor that in also as part of what it costs the town to provide that parking. And then the other thing I think that has to be done is, we have to know how many, for the fees in lieu of parking, what is the actual demand? There was a piece of work done when this was first proposed that went through all the different buildings and assessed how many parking spaces they had available and what the people that did that thought the need was. And it was, I think it's a good basis to start from, but it is 10 years old.
But the fact of the matter is that Main Street, the landscape hasn't changed all that much, so the structures 10 years ago are pretty much the same structures now.
Correct.
Perhaps, some ancillary apartments that have been added.
There's probably been some,
You know,
well, there's been some businesses added. There are in the last 10 years, and there may have been some apartments
and
added.
10
so-
years ago, some of the businesses that were added, correct me if I'm wrong, some of those storefronts were calculated in those numbers, anticipating.
Yeah,
So
I actually,
I would assume that the numbers from 10 years ago, although they may be not 100% accurate, they're probably pretty much on target.
they probably are, but I think it would behoove the town to go through
Sure.
and go through and validate them and revise them.
I bring that out only because, you point out earlier that it's labor intensive to get that survey done, as far as the population. I think, some of the information we have probably cut down on some of that labor intensive.
Well, but I think somebody still has to go building the building
Sure.
on Main Street.
Just to verify.
And has to put it
the
all
previous
together. So
numbers.
there is I'm guessing there's probably 20 hours of work there by the time you go through and do it and then document it. So there is work to be done.
You have to identify the building, what the building's needs are and what they already have too, because some buildings have parking, some buildings don't.
Now, what I did do is I took the work that was originally done 10 years ago, and using the Ulster County GIS, it's actually a pretty nice tool. You're able to actually look at individual pieces of property to see who the owners are. And so I've gone through and I've updated that, but nobody has done the door-to-door analysis. And so that's going to have to be done at some point, if in fact the town board adopts this proposal. If the town board doesn't adopt it, then that's kind of a moot point. That's about it. I have some more supporting data of how we arrived at this proposal. If at some point you have an interest in sitting down and discussing it.
The only thing I would caution is that we have to be careful when getting confused with the code that allows the uses to happen on Main Street based on parking. Because one of the things that happens on Main Street is there's less of there's less of a what do we call it? There's requirement for the parking because we know we don't have enough parking so you wouldn't get an approval for almost anything if you didn't reduce the parking requirements on Main Street compared to other parts of town. So.
But that's why you have the waiver process. That's
Right,
why you
but what
have
I'm
the
saying
fee
is we
in lieu.
don't want to change
code.
I know you did an analysis on how many parking spaces were required for certain types of uses. And I think that it's always been understood that one of the reasons it wasn't the same restrictions as it is somewhere else, or the same number of parkings needed for a space was to be able for the use to actually happen. Otherwise, you would not have any businesses. Some of those
Well,
businesses.
the code actually changed 10 years ago. Up until then, it was a restaurant in Tilson required the same amount of parking per square footage as a restaurant on Main Street. And I don't know why, personally, you would say that a restaurant on Main Street only needs half the parking per customer that a restaurant in Tilson needs. If you have a restaurant on Main Street that can handle 100 customers, and you calculate that it's a car for every 4 customers, why would that be different than a restaurant in Tilson?
Well, because the code doesn't specify what the real use of the space is. It's about how you calculate how many cars are needed for that space. It doesn't mean because I have a 1-bedroom apartment that I only have 1 car. I might have 2 cars, but we only have a requirement for 1 car for one bedroom apartment.
Correct.
So-
And that's the same on Main Street as it is
I'm just
anyplace
using
else.
that as an example, I'm just saying, you could make that argument for everything, that you know, may need more parking than it's really listed. I mean, the whole point of that is to be able to have a system that you can make approvals, otherwise you wouldn't have approvals. Because if you had to require 75 parking spaces, you're not even gonna find that in a parking lot. So how do you, I'm just saying we have to be careful that we're not creating a code here that also makes it so that you can't get approvals for whatever the planning board is.
Let's use a restaurant as an example, and I don't want to debate this ad nauseum here, but let's say we have a restaurant in Tilson that current code needs 30 parking spaces, but they don't have the property for 30 parking spaces. They actually don't have an alternative. They can't get a waiver because there's no municipal parking. Where that same restaurant on Main Street can get a parking waiver, and they could use municipal parking. And by the way, it's probably going to be a lot cheaper for them to pay for the waivers than it is to build a parking lot and maintain it. So, you know, I guess personally, I don't know why you would have two sets of requirements, one for Main Street and one for every place else in town, especially since the parking waivers are available for that overflow parking that those Main Street businesses might
Well, right now, I think you're only allowed eight waivers for this, any property on Main Street is only allowed up to 8 waivers.
I don't recall seeing that in the code, but okay.
Sure it is.
I mean, if you say that.
Do you remember, Bill?
Yeah, maximum 8 waivers per
For
application.
property.
Per application. But that's not, in this proposal, we don't have a limited number of waivers. It's whatever's required.
But then that would have, then you'd be changing those codes too.
That code does change, yeah. This replaces the existing parking.
But the fact of the matter is, we do have a limited number of parking spaces, opportunities, and availabilities. So, you know, when we see the difference between the village or Main Street and the rest of the town, I think to Gene's point, that if we were to, you know, go with, you know, across the board, say with the 400 and the 100, you know, as it is in the rest of the town, that is, in effect, it's going to basically close Main Street down for any future development. Because the spaces just aren't going to be there.
But the spaces aren't going to be there, so if you have 5 restaurants that need 40 cars each, they need 40 cars each to say, well, they only really need 20. They still need 40 cars each. You know, there's the reality of the situation. So.
And I think that's why the numbers were different for Main Street versus the rest, because, you know, there's got to be, like Gene said, there's got to be some sort of a calculation or system to be able to do that, to give the waivers, anticipating that not everybody's going to come at the same time. You know.
What do you do then, once they're used up, you don't let anybody else have a, I mean, that's what.
Well, that's just it. This would.
It's not going to always match what you actually have in parking, that's the problem.
What was your
and
solution
even,
to it?
Well, it's in there, that's the proposal.
even using the you know, the smaller numbers as they exist right now, you know, the fact of the matter is, we as a board don't know exactly the precise number of spots that we're going to control going forward. And you referenced it with regard to the, you know, the rental agreement at, you know, with Walker Valley Land Trust, which, you know, we're going to be speaking with them and negotiating with them. But even if we're successful, and I believe that we will be, in maintaining that, it's still a finite number of spots that, when you add them all up and you calculate that, you know, the theater doesn't have the required spaces that they should have.
Close.
I know, and then that there's already been some spaces for, designated from the theater given to an adjacent, you know, business owner. You know, let's face it, we're trying to, you know, we're trying to come up with a law here that's going to be applicable and sensible to be able to develop our Main Street, but we haven't got the parking to be able to do that as the law says. So we got to do a little, you know, a little here and a little there, and do the best that we possibly can, and still make it an opportunity for people to come here and set up shop.
I think
And how do you do that? I don't know. And how do you do that? I don't know.
yeah, and the
I
other,
don't know. I was looking for the addendum on this, you know, to say, how do we make this all work with what we know we really have? You know,
Well, and
what we know we really have right now, you may as well say, Main Street is closed for any future development.
any future large development,
the other-
it can't handle another movie theater, obviously.
No.
With a movie theater with 300 seats that has 34 parking spaces, but when it's full, they're probably using 90.
I know, but
90 parking
the problem is also is you've got certain, I mean, it's taken a step back to approvals that we've already granted too. So, I mean, if you've given a waiver to somebody for 8 spaces, I think it makes sense to say, okay, you've gotten your waiver, you've been, this was part of your approval, and now you have to pay X number of dollars because you have this many waivers. But what I don't know if we can do is go back and say to somebody that's gotten approval. I mean, some of these places have pre-existed before any planning approvals came into place. But what I would caution us is, and I have to check with our legal, is if we can go back and stipulate other parking requirements when we've already given a variance for those parkings to begin with. So that's where I think we might run into problems.
Well, we have to talk to Mary Lou about
I
it.
mean,
This is a new law.
It makes
And I
more,
believe that if you would go through and reanalyze all the buildings on Main Street, not just individual ones,
but you
it's
can't,
the implementation
you
of
can't take
the
away, you might be able to do that with the parking part as long as it doesn't take away the approval you gave them at least for the business or the apartments to exist.
Yeah,
That's
the
what-
intent here is not to take anything
No,
away.
so we have to be careful on how, because you may be able to still achieve the same goal of getting, implementing a cost that gets associated by still saying this business or this property has 7 or 8 waivers, and that waiver, one waiver is equal to X number of square feet or X number of bedrooms or whatever. It's still going to cost them X number of dollars that we determine we need from each parking space, whether it's, because the whole idea of the parking fee is to cover the parking costs.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, but
does
there
it
are-
matter if you're giving them 8 waivers or if you're giving them, 16 waivers, if you're still collecting the same amount of money and getting the waiver based on
No.
their usage?
No.
So,
You arrive at the same place, just.
you have this reside at the same place, so
You're gonna have to work on it.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, those are the few tweaks that I think.
Yeah, and this is a complicated issue.
It is.
The main thing, Kim stated, the main thing is, we should get something in place, because other communities are doing it.
Yep.
And it's expensive. I mean, we haven't gotten to raw figures, but it's expensive for taking care of these spaces.
Absolutely.
And the town deserves to have them. The town is under financial pressure. It deserves to have reimbursement on this.
Yeah, and I think the biggest problem in the past was how do we collect that money? That's always been an
Yeah.
issue, how do you
And
get
I
that?
think that's addressed here. I mean, you set up a
Yeah.
parking district like you would a lighting district.
Right, and then that's where you have.
That's how other
to-
communities
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. And that's the thing that I think is really key to this.
Now, a lot of communities also do a single payment in lieu of. Some of them are quite high.
I saw
There are some
that.
communities that'll charge $15,000. So when you come to the planning board for approval and you need 10 parking spaces, it's 10 times $15,000.
And then
I
they're
don't
done,
propose
and
we
then
do
they're done,
that.
but the
And
problem.
then they're done, but I don't propose that. I mean, I think we ought to.
Yeah, we have to be careful, like I said before. Then the other thing is, once you got all these buildings occupied and you don't have any more things coming before you, you don't have any more revenue
That's
either,
right.
so then that's an issue
Well,
too.
leaving Main Street, what about Market?
Well, this parking proposal would also have to do with any businesses,
Correct.
so.
Any business.
Jen?
I've been reading about, there are smart parking code changes you can make that can help expand the number of spaces available in a geographically tight area like Main Street. For instance, a lot of towns are designating, businesses are designating a portion of their parking lot to compact cars. So in some places, they do it up to a third of the spaces, which is a lot, but I don't think our code would allow for that because it specifies, the size a parking space has to be. But if your code is amended to allow for that, you can increase the number of spaces available in parking lots because a lot of people are driving compact cars now. And another thing that's more common now is shared parking because some businesses, the current businesses may or may not want to do this, but daytime businesses and nighttime businesses have different demands on their parking lots. So if your code allows for shared parking agreements, then
Yeah, I think that's already happening right now. That's the way it's happening. It's informally happening now that way when you think about about restaurants that are open at night, people that go to work, maybe work in town during the day, or you get people that transfer. When town hall clears out, other people are parked there.
Well, it's very similar with the theater agreement, with Big Cheese.
Well,
The theater
well-
gave up X amount of spots to Big
Yeah,
Cheese.
But that was different, because they actually deeded those spots.
They needed them.
Well, it's in the approved site plan.
It's not deeded, though.
It's not deeded, but it's in the approved site
Dedicated.
plan.
Yeah, it's dedicated.
So those are,
But we've allowed that in the past, that's allowed. So what we had done when that happened was we calculated what the theater needed, not by how many seats there are, how many people are really in there, but what the code called for parking for that type of use, so.
actually, the code doesn't say anything about the
It
use.
was, it was, I forgot exactly how there was a category we went by, I don't remember exactly. Billy, yes?
I have the answer to Tim about why Main Street has a different parking ratio than the rest of the town.
Go ahead.
Once upon a time, they parked on both sides of Main
Yep.
Street, and they were robbed of one whole side of the street parking. So this compensates them for the loss of the parking space that the state took away.
I was thinking about that earlier, and I had mentioned that to
Still does.
somebody.
Well, bring back
It's
parking on both sides of the
pre-existing.
street.
It's a pre-existing situation, There were all these buildings were there was parking on both sides of the street, there was other parking, and
I was just
That
looking at a
parking was
picture,
taken
was
away
left at
from
your place,
Yeah.
and I saw all that parking, I'm going,
Cars parked on both sides of the street and 2 cars parked in the middle of the street, 4 cars wide between Kenny Rhodes and where Memorial's Funeral Parlor was.
yes, yes,
And they were bigger cars then than they are now.
absolutely.
And I just want to comment on, I'd be concerned about the proposal that Jen made about the compact cars, because the one fear you'd have is that the truck pulls in and there's only one parking spot, and it's the compact car spot, and now this person doesn't have a parking spot because they're going to get a violation if they park in the compact. So, I think the thing to do is to make sure that we have as many parking spots as we can possibly have, and,
That's my biggest concern, is that we're going to be issuing waivers, and even with the day, night, and, in other words, you're not limited to the number of spaces you have, because there is that rotation of vehicles, but
well, think of it this way, it already exists. Every property on Main Street, if they don't have parking, they're using the municipal parking lot. So
Yeah.
right now, we're already accommodating everybody, whether it seems tight and it's not adequate, but that's what's happening right now. It's very unlikely that you're gonna have something else on Main Street that's gonna have this huge influx of new spaces that we need, because almost everything is occupied right now. So I don't see that as the issue.
so it's really just a matter of a fair way to charge people to assume the cost of
And identifying
plowing and lights
who's
and
gonna pay
that
what,
sort of
and,
stuff.
creating that district. That's the thing.
It would be really good to get it resolved and start collecting the revenue, because it's been
Yep.
several years.
Can I get there in front of the planning board too?
Absolutely, that was
Okay.
my next step.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to refer this to the Rosendale Planning Board.
Comment and review. I'll second. Bill, off the top of your head, do you have any idea how many waivers have been granted to this point?
I would say less than 10.
Less than 10?
10 properties. No, more than 10.
Yeah, I'd say probably 10 buildings at the most.
Yeah.
10 properties.
I believe we have currently 24 waivers.
Yeah.
That's what it's
24.
But it's just a very narrow stretch.
Are those, is that based on the planning board or waivers that you know that were?
Planning board.
It's all planning board waivers?
Yeah, because nobody else is assigned waivers.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
It
all
was-
as
yeah,
part of the
some
site
people-
plan review.
Some people should have waivers, but they don't. And that's the part that we have to identify too.
And that was another part of the problem.
Right.
You were never required to get a waiver unless you came to the planning board because you had some type of change that forced you to
Right.
need it.
That's a key part, I think, about making this work, is identifying the people that have never had to go before the planning board, but still should be issued a waiver.
Correct.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hanson?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes. since we're just on this parking and street, I just want to throw in, there was a woman here last week who complained about Lewis's doing their tree trimming and leaving a mess of debris. Well, as luck had it, the very next day they were working on Gristmill Road. I got out, I spoke with the foreman, I asked them to put the road back to the way they found it, please. They didn't have leaf blowers in that, and I said, well, you know what, the sticks on the low or in small cars, the cars are catching. We got to have these roads cleaned up. And I went down the very next day, the same mess. So then I found them again, and I said, look, I'm either going to contact Central Hudson Monday, or you guys are going to invest in blowers. It's your call. So it appears that they got blowers from somewhere and went back and redid the roads. So that was one thing I did. There was a woman here that mentioned that. She's not here tonight. The other thing is, there's been an ongoing issue, especially with Jack Snyder, with streetlights. The other night, I spent a couple of 3 hours, and I drove around 213, High Falls Park, 32, Maple Hill, Tilson, and I found 15 lights that were out or on and off. I got the pole numbers, I went home, got on the computer, and reported them all to Central Hudson. So that's all done. I know I didn't get the whole town of Rosendale, but I got the main road. So you see any obscure lights in off-roads and that, either get the pole number and give me a call, or just give me a call, and I'll go get the pole number and report it. But it was really a very simple task. The Central Hudson website was very easy to fill out, and
So Bob,
it's done.
you could do it just as a citizen, you could just.
Absolutely. You just go on to
So
Central
anyone
Hudson,
could do it.
and if it says report outages, you hit that. It takes you to streetlight outages. You put in your name, your email address. You fill in, it's a 6-digit poll number for each one. You report whether it's out or if it's on and off, blinking. And then shortly after, they give you a response ticket that it has been noted. And so it's all proof that it was made, it was documented, and you move on.
Yep. Thanks, Bob.
They're gonna come back and clean up what they left all over the road then, you say?
No. From here on in, wherever they go, I think they've been all over the place, so I didn't know how I was gonna go without.
I actually also talked to a crew after Bob did, because I wanted to follow up on what conversation he had.
Lewis, his name
And
is
they
Mark.
said that it was, the guy I talked to said that morning, the supervisor had addressed the fact that they'd gotten complaints, and that's based on what Bob had said to them, and that they were instructed to clean up the messes. So if anybody notices that there's still a mess, give us a call. And
My phone number's in the phone book. Feel free to call me and I'll hunt them out again. But I've saved 2 voicemails from the foreman Mark. And the second one, when I said I'm going to get a hold of Central Hudson, let them deal with it, he assured me and promised me on my cell phone that from here on in, it would be taken care of. So I saved it, I didn't delete it, so feel free to call me. I will take care of it.
And you can call town hall also. Okay, thank you, Bob. I've got a resolution here to approve me applying for state aid for reimbursement for the coaches that we pay for the swimming team.
This would be Res 6, right?
Is it?
Yes.
Resolution 12-2012-6, application for state aid to the New York State Children and Family Services. Whereas the town of Rosendale has been supporting and paying the salaries for the coaching staff of the Rosendale Rapids swim team. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Whereas the recreation director, Tara Burke, was made aware of a state opportunity that was available for the town of Rosendale is eligible for. And whereas the town of Rosendale will be applying for the state aid in the amount of $2,600. Now therefore be resolved that Gene Walsh, the supervisor of the town of Rosendale, Chief Fiscal Officer, is hereby authorized and directed to file an application for state aid with the New York State Children and Family Services amount of $2,600 to cover costs of coaching staff.
I'll second that.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green? Yes. Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Unified Planning Work Program through the Ulster County Transportation Council. The Ulster County Transportation Council is looking for projects. I've approached them, Brian Slack, I think it is, about an idea I had to incorporate the Walfield Valley Land Trust property, the rail trail, the trestle, Jobbinburg Mountain, parking lots, crosswalks for the bike shop and the access to town, bike paths, crosswalks for future Little League, which might be on 32, and also access for the bus stop to Market. So identifying and showing the Ulster County Transportation Council that we have a situation in our town that very soon will have new issues that have to be addressed that have to do with connectivity and making it safe for bikes and pedestrians and traffic to be able to intermingle throughout these new sites that we're going to have, parks, rail trail, those kind of things. And it's very obvious if we have the bike shop on 32, we're going to have an issue of how do you get to the bike shop from the trail? How do we get to Main Street from the trail? How do we get to the ice cream parlor, Stewart's from the ball field, that kind of thing. So I presented it informally to them, and they seemed interested in our project. And so this is a resolution for me to fill out the application and see if we can get some help on this. Anybody have any questions on it?
No, I think it's a great thing that if we can,
There's no guarantee, but it's a project that I think Rosendale will benefit from, and they're looking for projects that are,
Does the Ulster County Transportation Council actually have the funding? Is that where the funding?
There is a call for them. We may have to spend a small portion. That has not been identified. Let's say the project, maybe it's 5% of what the project costs or something. But,
$200,000 in federal transportation funds available. The maximum funding is $60,000 per project.
Yeah, he made it sound like we don't know what the possibilities are right now. They may only fund one project. They may fund 3.
Yep.
I don't know what the answer to that question.
But according to this, it looks like Ulster County's maybe in line for $200,000 in federal transport funds for this. So
Yeah.
the first one on board is probably
We tried, right?
Yeah.
All right, Resolution 12-2012-7. Apply for SFY 2013 Unified Planning Work Program Project through Ulster County Transportation Council. Whereas the Ulster County Transportation Council has a call for projects for planning to help implement their Unified Planning Work Program. Whereas the town of Rosendale has some transportation connectivity needs such as crosswalks, parking, bike paths, access to management to incorporate new development of trails and parks in the town of Rosendale. And whereas the town of Rosendale needs for connectivity fits the description of the Ulster County Transportation Council's call for projects. Now therefore be resolved that Jean Walsh, as supervisor of the town of Rosendale, is hereby authorized and directed to apply for the SFY 2013 Unified Planning Work Programs project.
I'll second it.
Roll vote, Councilwoman Green, please. Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
Yes. Resolution 2012-2012-8. Adopting local law number 2, amending Town of Rosendale Code regarding tax exemption. Whereas the town of Rosendale is concerned for the financial impact on its seniors, veterans, Cold War veterans, and persons with disabilities due to property assessments. And whereas a duly publicized public hearing was held by the town board of the town of Rosendale to consider the advisability of the foregoing with respect to enactment of the following local law, such public hearing had been held on the 5th day of December 2012, With all those wishing to be heard having been heard, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby adopts the following local law, a copy of which is annexed hereto and made a part hereof.
I'll be glad to second that.
Roll call. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
Gene, before we move to the next item,
Yes.
it's kind of related to this. It is a veterans issue,
Mhm.
and Councilman Gallagher asked me to just bring it up tonight. The county-owned building on Flatbush Avenue in Kingston is for sale. I think that's where they have the county mental health and various other offices.
Board of Health.
Board of Health. The county executive has proposed selling that building, and there is a Vietnam Veterans Memorial on site there, that the veterans of Ulster County are very concerned that should that building be put up for sale and subsequently sold, what would happen to the memorial. So it's in the early stages, but Councilman Gallagher's brother was instrumental in the initial planning and installation of the Veterans Memorial there, and he's very concerned. He lives in Florida, so we want to get the word out that this is happening, and I believe the veterans organizations now in Ulster County are looking for a host site or a place to possibly move it. There's thoughts that, there might be a number of different communities vying for that. I think Bob spoke to you about it also.
I want to bring it up a level or two.
Okay.
Also, his brother, Ray,
Yes,
it was a Purple Heart recipient
Yes.
too.
twice.
And the real important issue is when they put that monument up there, he put both of his Purple Hearts in the cement. So we want to salvage them if possible. So either you, I prefer you, or Nana, to contact Dave Massey. Dave Massey is the Ulster County Veterans Director whose office is in that building that Mike Hine appointed. It should be brought to his attention of our concern and to try to salvage those Purple Hearts that he wanted to keep with the monument. He don't want the Purple Hearts back. He wants them salvaged as the foundation, so wherever the monument goes, they will travel with it and stay with it.
Where is the building?
It's on the corner of Foxhall Avenue and
No,
East
East Chester Street, Flatbush.
and Flatbush, that's what I always call
Yeah,
Flatbush.
big yellow building, D'Amico Motors,
Yes.
at the intersection right there, the big yellow building that sets up on the
It's a
hill.
beautiful building. It's for an old building, aesthetically, it's beautiful to look at. I didn't realize that the county exec wants to sell that building.
That's part of the proposal. So, the concern is that if it goes through as fast as perhaps Golden Hill did, that, we may be in a situation where there's a potential suitor that wants to take the building, and certainly we wouldn't want to lose the Veterans Memorial in any way, shape, or form.
Well, they told me that the consideration now is to bring it to the Armory on Manor Avenue, but this is new information I just obtained, but there's veterans in that, for some reason, that don't want it there, and maybe I wouldn't want it there neither, because like I said, I just found out about this maybe 5 or 6 hours ago, so I need to research this out myself. You know what? I'll contact Dave Massey and tell him that since his office is there, he's the Veterans Director, those are the priorities, our concerns, where the monument's going to end up and where Ray Gallagher's Purple Hearts that are in cement want to travel with that monument.
Is anyone from the Legion involved in trying to?
American Legion and VFW, that's a county thing.
No, but I'm saying, wouldn't it make sense for
I'm
them
going
to?
to contact
Bob has reached out,
approach-
Bob emailed both Commander
Yeah.
Nielsen and Bob
and
Barnhart.
Bob Barnhart from the
To
VFW,
Right.
approach
in
them.
hopes to try to get some,
Yeah.
some local concern out there. That, certainly, we don't want to lose the opportunity to have a Veterans Memorial here in Ulster County. And on a selfish note, you know, if it needs to be moved, I think Rosendale would be a great
Well,
host.
we have a nice
You know.
place for a memorial already.
Well, we
so-
do, you know, and then the potential and the possibility, if we got into Rosendale School, there's plenty of room up there. In the absence of that, Ulster County Community College is kind of very central in the county. You know, so no matter where it goes, it just has to go somewhere. It just can't disappear as part of the sale
You know,
of the building.
I think that's great.
Veterans Cemetery in Lloyd, that was just dedicated to Veterans
Well, that's
Cemetery.
probably, you know, and there may be a whole lot of discussion with regard to this, you know, that
In fairness to the veterans, I think that we ought to allow the veterans to come up with
I think it
their
should come
ideas
from them.
and present it to us,
But
and then we'll work.
I agree, but it doesn't hurt to let the veterans know that we're receptive if they
Oh, absolutely,
consider our
sure,
staff.
absolutely.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can we just make a motion to notify them that we request that the two stay together? Because that's, that the monument, that wherever the monument is moved, that that sounds like that's what the request is, that the Purple Hearts go.
so
You
you
know
make
what?
that motion, and I would say,
Can I change my mind on something? Could you ask Jill to email Dave Massey? Because I've learned that you gotta have things in writing.
All right, so why don't, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, it doesn't seem premature, it seems pretty
No,
clear that
it's
just that one request be honored, that so that you articulate the motions very well. I'm not sure if I can do this.
perhaps a motion along the lines of, in light of the information of the potential sale of the county building at
Might be 300.
Yeah, if there is.
300 Flatbush Avenue,
Yeah,
that the town board of the town of Rosendale is concerned with the future of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and
The new location of it.
would be interested in a discussion as to siting, or would be certainly willing to assist in any way, shape, or form to maintain a Veterans Memorial in Ulster County.
I
And
think
also
the
to-
motion should just be on the keeping the two together, and that the covering thing should say that we're interested. I'm not sure if that's okay. I don't think
Sure.
that it needs, because to have a discussion, I think we need a motion. We want to let them know that we're interested.
Sure.
And, but the main thing is keeping the two together.
So part of the motion, you wanted to urge
Request
them
that the two
to,
Purple Hearts of Ray Gallagher embedded in the base of the Vietnam Memorial be moved with the memorial, or remain
Preserved.
intact.
Relocated.
Remain intact with the memorial.
I will make that motion.
Thanks, Joan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second it also.
Vote. Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Hassett,
Yes.
Councilman Ryan,
Yes.
Supervisor.
yes. Okay.
Would you
And
all please-
I'll have Jill follow up on that.
If she would, please.
Yeah.
Because I don't have access to a computer during the
Okay.
day, and his name is Dave Massey. And he's the Ulster County Veterans Director. Well, my concern is the schools being abandoned and these other buildings. It's a sad thing, and I'm afraid in years to come, it's going to be an unsightly thing. If some plans for the next step of vacating these buildings aren't taking place.
Okay, the next thing on the agenda is to pass the law for local law 3 for the amending Chapter 75, the Code of Rosendale regarding the exploration and extraction of natural gas and petroleum products. But before we do that, we need to do the neg deck. So we're going to turn to part 2, which is 11 of 21. I think it is. Let me make sure I got the whole thing. Yes. Page 11 of 22.
Page 15.
Yes. So I'm going to, I don't know if I have to read this part on the top. Projects, impacts, and their mitigation, magnitude, responsibility of lead agency. So, I just can skip to impact on the land. Will the proposed action result in a physical change to the project site? No. The next page, number 2. Will there be an effect to any unique or unusual landforms found on the site? No. Will proposed action affect any water body designated as protected under Articles 15, 24, 25 of the Environmental Conservation Law, ECL? No. Will proposed action affect any non-protected existing or new body of water? No. Will proposed action affect surface or groundwater quality or quantity? No. Will proposed action after drainage flow or patterns or surface water runoff? No. Will proposed action affect air quality? No. Will proposed action affect any threatened or endangered species? No. Will proposed action substantially affect non-threatened or non-endangered species? No. Will proposed action affect agricultural land resources? No. Will proposed action affect aesthetic resources? If necessary, use a visual EAF and addendum in section 61720 appendix B? No. Will proposed action impact any site or structure of historic, prehistoric, or paleontological importance? Will proposed action, did I say no for that?
Yes.
No.
No. Will proposed action affect the quantity or quality of existing or future open spaces or recreational opportunities? No. Will proposed action impact the exceptional or unique characteristics of a critical environmental area, CEA, established pursuant to subdivision 6 NYCRR 617.14G? No. Will there be an effect to existing transportation systems? No. Will proposed action affect the community's sources of fuel, energy supply? No. Will there be objectionable odors, noise, or vibration as a result of the proposed action? No. Will proposed action affect public health and safety? No. Will proposed action affect the character of the existing community? No. Is there likely to be public controversy related to potential adverse environmental impacts? No. Now, we have to go back to page 1 of 21. Determination of significance, type 1, and unlisted actions. Identify the portions of EAF completed for this project, 1 and 2. Upon review of the information recorded on this EAF, parts 1 and 2 and 3 if appropriate, and any other supporting information, considering both magnitude and importance of each impact, is reasonably determined by the lead agency that A, the project will not result in any large and important impacts, and therefore is one which will not have a significant impact on the environment. Therefore, a negative declaration will be prepared. A motion to declare a SEQRA negative declaration for local law 3 of 2012 regarding the exploration and extraction of natural gas and petroleum products.
I would like to second. And I just want to say it's kind of ironic because in a way, the answer is yes in a positive way. It's really no negative.
Yeah,
But
well,
it doesn't say.
But anytime there's no impact, no change, when there's no change, it's no.
It's no, yes.
But,
Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
point.
Councilman Hassett?
That
Yes.
there is an impact.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. And I will go ahead and sign that. approve local law 3 of the year 2012, amending chapter 75 of the Code of Rosendale regarding the exploration and extraction of natural gas petroleum products. Whereas the town of Rosendale is concerned for the health of the public and their residents, and whereas the town of Rosendale would like to preserve its natural resources by prohibiting the exploration and extraction of natural gas and petroleum products, and whereas a duly publicized public hearing was held by the town board of the town of Rosendale to consider the advisability of respect to enactment of the following local law, such public hearing having been held on September 12, 2012, now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby adopts the following local law, a copy of which is annexed hereto, made part hereof.
I would like to second this as well.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
So if we just sent a message that don't frack with us,
That's what we
all
need.
right, that's good.
Congratulations.
And I'll get this stuff tomorrow. Those two laws have to go to the state.
Oh, you know, what local law number is it? Do we have a
Local law number 3. And,
Oh, I see. Okay.
next, Evolution Technologies. That's number 10, 12/2012, 10. Authorized agreement with Evolution Technologies, whereas the town of Rosendale finds it necessary from time to time to obtain outside assistance for technical support to its computer needs, and whereas the town of Rosendale finds that by signing an annual support agreement with Evolution Technologies, it can fulfill those needs, and whereas Evolution Technologies has submitted such an agreement from January 1st, 2013 through December 31st, 2013, which is attached here to me in part hereof. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Rosendale authorizes the supervisor to sign said agreement on behalf of the town of Rosendale.
I'll second that, and I have to say that I think Silas has done a good job, great job for the town of Rosendale for the past X amount of years, and just want to mention that I think this is the 3rd or 4th year in a row he hasn't raised his rates.
Yeah, he did, I just want to, he did raise his rates for his other work that he does for us, if it's not in the scope. But
But
his
the
actual
service contract
service
itself.
contract itself is the same. Yes, I agree, it's been, definitely worth the money. Did you say you second that?
I do.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. And this is a service contract for Crosspoint Solutions to do cameras for the High Falls Water District. We had showed you guys this last week, and Crosspoint had the lowest bid. So the resolution is 12/2012/11. Resolution authorized installation and contract for security cameras at the High Falls treatment plant. Whereas the High Falls Water Treatment Plant is in need of security cameras for monitoring the plant at Mohawk Road, and whereas the superintendent of the water district outlined the specifications for this request, receiving 3 bids fitting the requirements, and whereas Crosspoint Solutions LLC of 292 Main Street, P.O. Box 446, Rosendale, New York 12472, was identified as the lowest bid for said services for $3,445. And whereas Crosspoint Solutions LLC has submitted service and maintenance agreement in the amount of $400 per year from January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2013. And whereas this resolution is contingent upon the town board of the town of Marbletown also authorizing Crosspoint Solutions LLC for said services, now therefore be resolved, the town board of the town of Rosendale hereby authorizes the supervisor to complete and execute said contract with Crosspoint Solutions LLC for services as outlined in the specifications for this request.
I'll second that.
Roll vote. Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Resolution 12, 2012.
12.
12.
This will never
On
happen for another 100
There you
years.
12.
There you go. 12.
Can we wait till
Another
12 minutes
100
to 12 to do this?
12 after.
12 after.
So after what, 10, because we just missed 12 after 9.
Too bad.
Good luck.
Darn it. Okay. This is the travel allowance for the attendees to the New York State Association of Towns Training Conference. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale is wholly committed to the education of public officials and matters pertaining to duties and responsibilities related to their respective positions. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale hereby authorizes said officials to attend 2013 Annual Training Conference of the New York State Association of Towns to be held February 17th to the 20th, 2013. Be further resolved that the Town Board authorizes the Town Supervisor to advance the sum of $230 as per the following schedule to the official attending annual conference or expenses related therefrom. Room double, just so I just want to clarify, even though I'm reading this, that we were able to get lower prices than this for the rooms last year, and I'm confident we'll be able to do that again. This is the way we have to do the resolution, but this is what the Association of Towns sends us, so. Room double, $269 per night, times 3 prepaid, $877 plus luggage fee. New York State AT registration costs, prepaid $100, meals, tips, travels, etc., $60 per day, times 3 is $180, round trip transportation is $50. Be it further resolved that each official will, upon return from said trip, submit to the town clerk a voucher detailing all expenses with receipts and any portion of funds remaining after said itemized expenses, and will also provide to the town board in writing a brief summary of the workshops attended. Please be advised that incidentals such as internet, alcohol, and entertainment charges are not reimbursable.
I'll second.
Roll vote, Councilman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Resolution 2012-13, appointment of official delegates to the New York State Association of Towns Training Conference. Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale hereby appoint Jean L. Walsh as official delegate and Robert Gallagher as the alternate delegate to the 2013 Annual Training Conference of the New York State Association of Towns to be held February 17th through the 20th, 2013.
I'll second.
It's getting thinner and thinner in here.
Yes.
Was it closer to Port Authority or to the Grand Central?
Port Authority.
It is?
Yeah.
Roll vote, Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Resolution 2012-14. A lot of resolutions this one. This is budgetary transfers for December 2012. Be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale hereby authorize the following budgetary transfer. General fund transfer the sum of from A1355.4 to A1355.2, $259.34. From A3310.2 to A3510.4, $1,000. From A3660.4 to A5010.4, $350. From A8710.4 to A7140.1, $3,600. From A7320.1 to A7320.4, $802.01. From A8710.4 to A8160.4, $2,000. From A3660.4 0.4 to A3620.4, $650. From the Highway Fund, transfer the sum of DA 5142.4 to DA 5130.2, $10,000. From DA 5142.4 to DA 5140.1, $2,030.43. The Sewer Fund, transfer the sum of SS 9060.8 to SS 8110.1, $7,500. From SS 9055.8 to SS 9730.7, $74.75. From SS 8120.2 to SS 8120.4, $500. Water Fund, transfer the sum of SW 8310.4 to SW 8310.1, $1,400.
It's a boring resolution.
Sorry.
If you sang it, it would have been better.
I'll let you sing it next time.
That much, 15 or 14?
That's 14.
Can I have a second?
Anybody can second that?
I will second that. I will be saying that. I'll
Yes,
second
second.
it.
Don't quit your day job.
You know, sometimes we do these things and Doris has a penny from one fund to the other, talking about being on target.
Roll vote, Councilman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. This is a resolution for the Water and Sewer Department software support, Resolution 12-2012, 15. Agreement for annual Water and Sewer Department software support, whereas Williamson Law Book Company provides professional software services and training to the Water Sewer Department, whereas Williamson Law Book has provided annual contract for software and services in the amount of $907.50. Said contract, which is attached here to and made a part hereof. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter the contract for said software and services.
I'll second that.
Roll vote, Councilman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Councilman Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes. Resolution 2020-12-16, authorizing agreement for purchase of police vehicle. Whereas the Town of Rosendale Police Department finds it necessary to upgrade equipment from time to time to ensure the safety of the public and its officers. And whereas the Town of Rosendale Police Department must purchase a police cruiser to replace one that has become too costly to repair. And whereas the Bengal Motors submitted a proposal bid number TT201308 for a 2013 Dodge Charger with police options at a cost of $31,241.55. The contract for which is attached here to and made a part hereof. Financing to be determined when car is delivered. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Rosendale authorizes the purchase of said vehicle under the terms of the attached contract.
I'll second.
Roll vote, Councilwoman Green?
Yes.
Councilman Hassett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Supervisor?
Yes.
I have a couple of things before we go into executive session.
Okay.
One is just a quick update on the sort of ad hoc committee for the Rosendale Black History Month celebration met here last night and came up with 4 proposed ideas, 4 or 5. Different people are working with different organizations, but the Friends of the Library has secured a date of February 12th for H.A. Williams Myers, and I think he's going to focus on the Underground Railroad, and in particular, how it applies to Rosendale. The Underground Railroad was a really important to, Ulster County played a very important role in that. And, you know, also answer any other questions of the Q&A. And then to arrange a tour the following Saturday on the 16th to actually go see some of the sites. There's an idea of the first week possibly having a concert geared toward youth. And on the third week, there are various different films that might be shown. And then the other thing that is actually confirmed with a date is February 27th, Kim and Reggie Harris are coming to give a concert at the theater. And they will actually be in New Paltz earlier that day. What they do is they go into schools and they have a program that is called, it has something to do with the dream, and it's teaching Black history through music. They are musicians and they travel all over the country, actually all over the world, but certainly all over the country. They happen to be in New Paltz and they're willing to come, and an arrangement is being made with the theater. So whatever gate is collected will be, I think the theater wants a discounted rate of $300, and then they'll work out how to pay the performers. And the group suggested a $15 fee, but of the 340 seats, they want to set aside like 50 seats for youth to come for free. So that's a plan. Different people are working on different parts of that. And I just think it's really positive. There was a very good feeling in the room, and you know, good participation, a lot of delegation, and we'll see how it firms up. But I just wanted to give you that update. And the other thing was, I did speak with DEC, and their response to me about the HRVR proposal that the legislature, the resolution that the legislature passed. And basically, I have to say that I'm very disappointed that it appears that nobody followed through to ask the DEC their side of it at the county legislature. And that early on, there was a strong suggestion by DEC to HRVR that they do the permits in a parallel manner to the environmental impact statement. And HRVR decided to do one first and then the other. And ultimately, they had to do the two together so that the information, the level of detail in the permits could inform the environmental impact statement. And that there was missing information. So I just, you know, I'm particularly disappointed in our own representative for not, you know, this is a Rosendale project. I think he should have taken it upon himself to call the DEC and find out, you know, what their side of that controversy is. And so that's just my report back. I said I would follow up, and I did, and there's no more action to be taken, but you know, we'll go into executive session. We'll talk about
I
this,
do want to make the public aware that as of today, late today, but it wasn't on the agenda, I did throw it in as correspondence. The New York State DEC did send a notice of complete application for the permits for Hudson River Valley Resorts. And if you go on their website, you can see the information. And this is also available for public comments on this project. And be submitted in writing to the contact person no later than 1/11/2013 or 30 days after the publication of this date of notice. Years later. So, I just want to let everybody know that they have posted the notice of complete application for the permits.
And our role ultimately will be findings.
We have other things to do. The first thing we'll have is findings, but they have to do their findings first. When we do our findings, then we do
Yeah.
zoning and planning.
Councilwoman?
Yes,
There have been a couple of references made that you're going to be going into executive session. What is that for?
it's for a salary discussion for